Hey there, honey bunnies. Welcome to episode 148 of your Sovereign Storytellers podcast with your host, Michelle Wolf. I don't have a title. I don't know. Letting go of learning, maybe. I have been uh, really refocusing on my Buddhist roots. Um, it drives so much of my worldview. And I don't know. It's like chicken or egg. Which came first? Did I already have a a Buddhist viewpoint on the world for, how I was raised, things I read as a child, I don't know, experiences with oneness, or did my worldview come from studying Buddhism? I don't know. I was young when I found it, uh, or when it, yeah, actually so young that I grew up with it in the house. My mom was practicing Soka Gakkai Buddhism when she was pregnant with me, and when I was very little. So the whole. So first of all, let me say Buddhism is not a religion. Some people will treat it that way. It's absolutely not. You can be a Christian and Buddhist. You could be Jewish and Buddhist. Sylvia Boorstein, Boorstein, I think. Yeah, Ein. Sylvia has written several great books um, about being a Jewish and Buddhist. Maybe I should have had some coffee or tea first. I just got a burst of energy, which is how I make my podcast episodes. The energy's here. Let's talk about it. So, and then Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a book called Living Buddha, Living Christ, which is lovely. Anyway, circling back to it, and there's lots of different factors, but I had a thing happen last night, and this happens, it's so common. And in my one-on-one psychic and mediumship development mentorship, um, a lot of time is spent, or a significantly important amount of time is spent unlearning how we've been taught to learn. I once did a Desire Map online workshop with teenage girls, and it was awful. It was the worst experience of my life. Not because they were awful, but because they were experiencing this too. They were so passive, which is difficult in an online class. We've been taught to passively sit and listen and be quiet and not move and make sure that we write everything down and we study and we show up for test day and we take the test and we get the A. And I'm a firm believer in education, and also the way we do it fucking blows. It's so bad. Um, Education is key to freedom, I believe. Education is what set my father free of extreme poverty, because he could read and he loved to read, and his siblings could read and they all loved to read, and I do believe it saved their life. When you read and you love to read and you read a lot of different things, it changes your life. So one of the first books I read, like an adult book, was Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb. I was like 7, like first grade. I didn't understand any of it, but I thought it was really cool though, and I read the whole thing. Anyway, I'm gonna get sidetracked. Learning. A lot of time is spent letting go of learning. There's lots of L's here, and it feels like it's a little early for all these L's. Letting go of learning in a linear fashion. Letting go of linear learning. There's the title. Letting go of linear learning. Because psychic and mediumship development requires you to step into the oneness, to allow what you think of as the edges of yourself to dissolve, to disappear. Sitting in the power, or I made a meditation for my clients called Perceiving the Power, because it's not exactly like your classic sitting in the power kind of meditation, but it is, sit in silence, or you can walk in silence after you've done some sitting in silence, so that you can get a sense of, you can open up your awareness of your own baseline energy, the baseline of you. When you do that every day, you recognize that the baseline of you is not a flat, straight line. It's a wave. In human design terms, this is not related to having an emotional wave as your authority, because we all have emotional waves, because we are wave-like creatures, because the universe itself is a wave. We have to get into the silence to begin to even crack the door a millimeter open, to start to see that the way we see is so limited. The way we perceive is just this little pinprick of light in a dark, dark room. And learning to perceive power, which you can do for free with no tools whatsoever, which is the heart of everything I teach, is you do not need a single tool. You need to understand how to use the tools you have. So, and that is also the heart of Buddhism. You don't need a priest. You don't need a book. You don't need anything. There's things you can use, but you don't need a thing other than education to know how to use what you've already got. So when you sit day after day and you try to get you try in the beginning, and then you just relax into it. Then you recognize that you're trying, and that's when you relax. And you're just present and mindful. This is not a checking out, so I don't advise people to use guided meditations all the time, especially not in the beginning. So this is mindfulness. So right now I'm standing in my recording studio bathroom. There's a little Carolina wren with something in its mouth, looks like nesting material, hopping around on my catio, which is a dog kennel turned into a place the cats can go outside. And it's not in use at the moment because now all the cats are old and they tend to stick around in the front yard or the backyard. Anyway, so I'm aware of that. I'm aware of the beauty of the raindrops that are suspended on the crossbars that the light is hitting, and they look like they're lit up. They look like fairy lights, but they're just drops of water. At the same time, I'm aware of the window I'm looking through. I'm aware of the cold ceramic tile on one of my feet, my right foot. I'm aware of my left foot, which is standing on the bath mat, which is not cold. So there's the bath mat feel under my left foot and the smooth ceramic tile under my right foot. Two of the neighborhood stray cats are now walking through the backyard. Awareness. It's not checking out. It's becoming highly aware. And experiencing how your awareness shifts in every moment. So when my attention's on my feet, I'm not as aware of the window between me and the catio with the raindrops and the tabby cat on the other side of that next to a big oak tree. I'm moving my awareness along this continuum from the bottom of my feet to out in the middle of the yard. Then that's the initial practice. And what's going on inside of me? So I'm moving my attention back inside of me. What's going on inside of me? What's happening inside of me is I feel a sensation that I often feel, that I need to get these things recorded, that I need to get the books written, that it's important to me to transmit my understanding of how to get freedom the fastest, and sovereignty and independence and all the things. It's a driving force in the reason this podcast exists in the first place. So you're sitting in silence to get a sense of yourself. Then you go into mindfulness. Let me back that up. You're sitting in silence to get a sense of yourself, and you're expanding your awareness out. Mediumship, sitting in the power, is done with your eyes open. And Buddhist meditation is done with your eyes open. You can relax your eyes and find a spot on the floor. Excuse me for clearing my throat so much. But your eyes are not closed. So you're in the world and not in the world. So this is non-duality practice. Okay, so you're sensing your own energy. You're sensing if there's any other energies around you. When you get a real solid base of your own energy, you feel it when one of your beloved dead shows up. You feel the difference when an energy is present that is supportive of you. You feel energies pass through, and we become that window screen, that open space where we're aware of all of it at once. This is very disturbing to the mind. Mind is like, oh, what's that energy mean? Oh, that what can that energy hurt me? Oh, am I at risk of being possessed? Oh, I'm scared now. There's all this stuff, and you become aware of it, and you're holding space for yourself. Then, and these aren't linear either, right? So then we move into mindfulness, what I just described with the tile and the tabby cap and everything in between. And the next step is to hold all of that at once. And in the beginning, it can make your mind feel very disturbed. And then you'll slip into it and you'll be like, oh, I'm in it. And then you're not in it because you're like noticing that you're in it. It's all very confusing. I know probably if you're listening to this podcast that you have experienced that, at least at some moment of your life. Moments of awe where everything you're in it, and there's no words for it. Martha Beck calls it the oneness and the wordlessness, because when you're in the oneness, you are wordless. And as soon as you find words again for it, you're not in the oneness anymore. Right? It's those weird coming up above dichotomies, this or that, black or white, 1 + 1 = 2, which maybe it doesn't, So why this matters so much is, and what's, I believe, reflected to us so loudly on the world stage, is that dichotomy. And for us to survive, we can't say, I'm going to pick this side, I'm going to pick that side, and then I'm going to try and murder the other side. We're having to hold space for all of it at once, which is very challenging, again, very destabilizing to the mind. But the freedom is found in the destabilization. When you're really destabilized and groundless, you can't feel the ground beneath you. You're grounded, though. I think, is it Pema Chodron? Well, it's groundlessness. You can Google. I don't know where it comes from. It's part of this whole thing. You're suspended in space, but you're all of space. There's no boundaries. You're not a discrete entity. You're in it. So when you know where you are in this whole thing. The reason that's a space of freedom is you recognize it when duality is pulling on you, where the divisions in the world are demanding that you pick a side, demanding that you do it right or else. So now I'm going to circle back to where I started with the learning process. These are all interconnected. We have to let go or learn to let go of this linear learning style so that we can learn what really matters. The things that are useful, the things that advance us as a species, the things that move us to further blooming. I'm seeing a rose blooming in my center of my head. That blooming, that expansion, that life process, the dissolution, the dissolving, the dying, the rebirthing, the living, the everything happening all at once is key to our survival, and it's crushed by the way that we do education. So what started all this thought process is I've recommitted to my Buddhist practices. Right after I did that, I found a course called The Way of the Dragon, and it just looked like fun to me. And it's Simone Soul, Soel. Probably spelling that wrong. You can Google The Way of the Dragon Simone, and you'll probably find it. But it wasn't clearly explained, and I didn't care because I followed her for a while. I like her stuff. Looked like fun. It was a really decent price point. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this for fun. Dragons are everywhere the last couple of years. Using them in the Train Your Body to Wealth program that I run. They're just really present. And so once we started, though, I was like, oh, it's Buddhism. We're starting with the Heart Sutra. And I was like, this is fantastic. Because I just recommitted to all of that because it serves me so well. And I'm using it all the time. And so when I say I recommitted, I never didn't not have it because it's my worldview, that chicken egg thing. But I have fallen away from meditation in that way. So that's what I recommitted to. But so I had a thing happen last night that triggered this whole thing with someone in my one-to-one mentorship program, the Psychic Medium Development Program process. I didn't hit record on the Zoom call. Now, this happens, but it's extremely rare. And it's never happened with this person. And the second that I said, uh-oh, it's not recording, her energy blew up. It destabilized, it got wobbly. It was almost like a wave of panic. And I felt it, and we processed it, and we talked about it. And, as I was thinking about it, got, restabilized and everything, and then recognized for her in those moments that learning style is there. Do it right, be good, take all the notes, listen to the teacher. You're less than the teacher. You are the passive recipient of what's being delivered to you, and you, by God, better get it right, regurgitating it back out on test day. Yeah? What a bunch of bullshit. Test anxiety, learning anxiety, all because of the system that we have with education, which I have complained about before, and there's plenty of really good people trying to change that and little pockets of different ways that children can learn, which I applaud. But if that's happening for you, the passivity of it, So this is another piece of what's happening to us. We're passive recipients. We're trained to be passive recipients of knowledge given to us. So we have the media problem that we have, where there is no, I think NPR comes the closest, but there's no unbiased media. There's not just factual reporting. It's got a spin on it. We know that. And yet we will passively consume and allow it to generate feelings and emotions, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and then it drives our behavior. Because we're not taught critical thinking skills, like legit critical thinking skills. I'm not talking about YouTube research. We're not taught how to evaluate our own biases and to own them. I'm clearly biased Democratic. I'm not like super radical left wing. I probably would fall in the moderate category of being a Democrat. But I would say that I fall on the moderate side because I'm constantly questioning everything. I have in the past voted Republican, not since, I don't know, maybe 2008 or something. Like if local officials, I thought the Republican was better, I didn't vote on strict party lines. And now I feel like I have to vote strict party lines because of all the madness. And then I have to catch myself and say, okay, yeah. So again, sliding on this continuum of tile on my feet, tabby in the yard, and all the things in between. So we have to remember, and we only remember when we have some kind of daily practice devoted to staying aware. We have to remember to not be passive recipients of everything around us. And there's always going to be everything around you. So you have to know where you're at in the everything around you. The everything all at once. That movie was awesome. By the way, everything all at once, everywhere. I forget the title. It was really good though. Very strange, but very good. So to navigate all these things that I'm throwing out in what may sound chaotic is you got to know where you are in it. So I'm talking about this forward continuum. Tile, window, catio, raindrops, tabby on the other side. That's the forward continuum. But there's side continuum. Bathtub to my right, ceramic tile floor, bedroom on the other side of that, ceramic tile to my left. What's on the other side of this bathroom wall? A closet? Oh my goodness. I can't remember. What's on the other side? Somebody tell me. I think it's a closet. And then there's the continuum behind me. A sliding door that goes into another part of the bathroom. My bathroom's very strange. With a vanity and the door into the hallway and everything. Then a bedroom and then the brick wall and then the front yard. Everything's a continuum. Where are you located on the continuum? This helps you feel into, perceive where your power is so that you can consciously evaluate as best you can. None of us are unbiased. None of us. But you can take a moment and look at the other side's arguments. And then look at your own. And look at the far extreme end of your own group. And then look at the far extreme end of the other, air quote, group. And then there's lots of other groups. When we expand out that way, it helps keep us from getting locked into the duality, because we're moving out of the duality by saying, okay, there's me, and here I am, and here's the everything around me all at once happening, and I'm being pulled, but I'm not responding to the outside pulls. I'm here in the wordlessness and the oneness. And now where do I want to put my energy? Then you are free to determine your own energy flows. And you're not wasting energy getting caught up in this, the tiny, like, tornadoes, that all the millions of tornadoes that are like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Come over here, join my side. You need to believe this. You need to say that. You've got to do this. You've got to get it right. You've got to do all the studying. You've got to get the A or else. You've got to vote it right or else. You've got to eat this or else. Duality. Yeah? So the simplest thing on earth is the most powerful thing on earth. And that is that getting to know where you are in the mix of it, in the thick of it, so that you naturally become a critical thinker, because you're naturally aware of how the things moving through you as a window screen are impacting you. Tosha Silver calls it preferences. We can desire things, we can want things, we can take actions in alignment with what feels true for us, and we have our preferences. I prefer that the tornado of orange does not sit in the White House. That's my preference. And I do whatever I can do to influence that with my voting. And then I let it go. And I don't listen to either side's dogs barking. You are able to look at the whole situation from an objective standpoint and feel how each aspect of it is impacting you, and then you get to make a choice. So it's like standing at the buffet and all the dishes are screaming, pick me. Everything's calling for our attention, even the raindrops. The raindrops call my attention because they're lighter than the dark metal of the catio. The contrast of it draws my human eyes. Our human eyes notice contrast and shades, and we look to light. When you're able to choose at the buffet, can you imagine if you went to like Golden Corral and the macaroni and cheese and the green bean casserole and the roast and all the things were like literally screaming at you? I guess a better example, this is a shitty example, I guess a better example would be an open air market where people are literally screaming at you and you're just there to get like a thing of carrots. But the shrimp guy is screeching at you to buy the shrimp. I hate shrimp. So that would be easy to tune out. But we have to know, boy, I'm pretty good at analogies usually, but my mind is not here for it. I've been slipping too. In the continuum, I've been in and out of energy space several times today, so now I don't know where I am. So that's when I would say, let me take 5 minutes after I'm done recording and remember where I'm at. And remember my baseline. Remember the core. It's the only way I've ever found. And I started, it doesn't matter when I started. A long time ago. Really studying these things. To choose. I want to be able to be at the buffet of life and feel like I can choose. And we could have a whole nother discussion about the ability to choose. Do you really have the ability to choose if you're looking through your own lenses? I think so. I think we can maximize our ability to choose. But um, the starting point is yourself, always. So I'm like talking about this, going off on tangents and rambling a bit, as I do on most of my podcast episodes, but we always come back to, oh, yourself. You always come back to, what's my baseline? Have I meditated today? Have I drank some water? Have I given my body some movement? Have I taken the time to sit in the power or become aware of the energies all around me? When I do that, everything that flows from there, I'm much less reactive to. And another thing is when you're doing that kind of practice every day, you get very fine-tuned into realizing the second right after your nervous system starts reacting and firing and gearing up for battle or flopping back into depression or whatever it is, and you can grab it at those soft, subtle stages and shift it, and you don't end up where you've always ended up, in your familiar bad feeling place. So amplifying awareness is everything, and amplifying awareness starts with silent meditation, not checking out, but becoming exquisitely aware, waking up. So earlier when I was talking about it's just a pinprick of light in a dark room, we start to expand. That pinprick of light gets brighter, and we start to see that we're in a room, and it gets brighter, and you start to see, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of stuff in this room. And it gets brighter and brighter, and you get to play, and it begins to feel like play. Like, what am I perceiving? What is in this room? What do I want to focus on now? Do I want to focus on the raindrops, or do I want to focus on the stray, their community, like feral cats? And the Siamese one just came through the yard and went under the hedge right outside the window. Where do I want to focus? I get to choose that only when I'm aware of myself and myself in the space around me and all the things in the space around me. I hope this makes sense. So the last aspect of letting go of that linear learning is, even when I say, I hope this makes sense, it often doesn't. These kinds of pathways of opening and experiencing oneness and wordlessness don't make sense. And trying to make them make sense is counterproductive. It keeps you from entering those states when your mind is trying to be like, what? What does that mean? And how does it relate to this? And I need to get an oil change in my car. And what is this bird doing? It's building a nest somewhere. Is that going to be a problem? Like, is a cat is it doing a dumb bird thing? Like, what's happening with this wren? You know? It doesn't make any sense. So we avoid meditation. We avoid this path of opening awareness because it doesn't make sense. And when things don't make sense, it's a bit scary. It's destabilizing to the mind. So we stop. But if you don't stop, you come to a place where you're so grateful that your mind was destabilized. You're so grateful that it felt like the rug got pulled out from under you and that you're suspended in space, because you're not suspended in space. You're in the oneness. You can't ever have the rug pulled out from under you. You can't ever feel lost and alone, because you can feel you in the soup, in the particle soup, at the tiniest level where there's nothing but empty space. When you're aware of that and thought stops even for a microsecond or recedes so far into the background that you're not aware of it anymore, those are those moments of awe, of absolute peace, the eye in the center of the hurricane, the most quiet you've ever experienced. And then every part of your system can just exhale. Just let go of holding its breath, waiting for something to shift, waiting for things to get better. And you fall into that space of, this is the better. This is the best. I'm already here. Mind can rest. Mind doesn't want to have racing thoughts. But when nobody's in charge, mind will take charge. But really, your ability to go, oh, I'm a tiny little particle in a sea of infinite other particles. And they're all popping into existence and out of existence, and millions and trillions of things are being born, and millions and trillions of things are dying. And I'm just one of them. There's so much freedom in that. And then you can slide back into the continuum of, maybe I should feed the cats. I need to get an oil change in the car. Can you feel how everything just drops and becomes so still and, ironically enough, so busy? The stillness and the busyness of everything happening all at once. It's really a wonderful experience to have, and I encourage you, if you haven't already, listen to me harping for years on daily practice. I hope that you will give yourself that experience of dropping in every single day and sitting there bored and listening how your mind is trying to botch it up, trying to categorize. Listen to how you are trying to learn as if you're still in school, as if you still have a test to pass, and let the knowledge come to you. There's nothing in the world that you need to know that you either already know, and if you'll get quiet, you'll know that you know, or that you can't go out and find. Some of the biggest traumas is when for me personally, and I know for other people, is when I lose data. I lost about half of my OneDrive. Photographs, courses, half-finished books, all kinds of stuff wiped out. Pictures of the twins. I'm the family photographer. All these photos of the twins, most of them we recovered, but in that moment, I felt like just putting my head in the oven. I was like, life's not worth living. I just lost all this data in my OneDrive. And it was horrible. I felt horrible, like sick to my stomach. Like I had a violent physical reaction to it. And then I was like, but the twins are alive. And we have a lot of photos of them. This was before Shelby was born. I have two twin granddaughters, Ashlyn and Avery. And they're about to turn 10 years old. This was like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And Shelby's 18 months old. So it was another experience of, man, I'm never going to run out of things to study, to learn, to talk about, to contemplate, and then write about or talk about. Never going to run out. I went back to replicate some of the things, and I was like, why am I doing this? Those things are in the past. Let me write what's real now, what's here and present in this moment. Let me write about how I'm seeing things today. Who cares how I saw things 2 years ago? Who cares? The children are still here. We can take more pictures. We have the memories in our minds of them. Because it really struck me like I'm like having a violent physical reaction to losing photographs. But we have only had photographs for not even the blink of an eye, like a half a blink of the cosmic eye. Photographs are very, very new still. All our digital media, very, very new. We weren't dragging around boxes of photographs when we were, can you imagine? How ridiculous. We wouldn't have survived. So just letting go. Any place you can find like that, where you're like so attached to a recording of the session. So how I felt the energy destabilized, but we very quickly ran through. I made some notes on a Google Doc and then hit record, and the rest of the session was recorded. And we got to have a wonderful, for her recognition of how you've been conditioned to learn, and the stifling, the mind just stifles the dynamic processes. Yeah, I haven't even had caffeine and listen. Gosh, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. I just got super excited. Yeah, my gosh, 40 minutes. I better shut up. I just had a surge of passion about this topic, and I just want to boil it all down and say, please go sit in silence. Please just go outside today, weather permitting, sit by a window, and ask your system to become aware of what's on the bottom of my feet. What is the bottom of my feet feeling surface-wise? What's going on in my hips? What do my eyes see? Listen to all your thoughts about all the things. Why do you have one foot on the tile and one foot on the bath mat? Why does the right foot have to be cold? Your mind is like, blah, 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 blah. Unless you're one of those fortunate people that doesn't have internal narrative. What is that like? Wow. All right, I'm going to stop and leave you this rambly mess for you to contemplate and notice your thoughts about it. Where are you in the continuum along the lines of all the things happening everywhere all at once? All right, until we talk again, think less, feel more, and I'll talk to you next time.